Hello, guys. We are back with day two, part two, and we are still on Patricia Kraft as the witness on stand. Uh, if you are just catching up, Patricia Kraft is the social worker who, in theory, was in charge, allegedly. Look, I spare none of the petty on this woman. She did not do any of the basic due diligence that one is supposed to do when taking care of these cases and let these two parents get away with neglecting, abusing this baby for far too long when had she done the standard operating procedures of her job, she could have done something to save this baby. But, the same could have been said for Scioto County Child Services writ large because they were getting ready to give him back to daddy dumbass, out of the jump. So, like I said, no petty spared for anyone in this trial, really. Any hoozle, I have this at 1.25, and let's jump in here.
Back for the second half of the morning testimony on case number 19 CR 586 A and B, State of Ohio versus Daniel Groves and State of Ohio versus Jessica Groves. The witness is Ms. Kraft is back in the witness stand. The state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Keenan, you may continue to inquire.
I'm going to direct your attention to May of 2019 of various attempts the Children's Services made to locate baby Dylan. Was there an attempt made on May 7th at the residence to locate the Groves family?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Was that the one where another caseworker, Megan Hankins, went out?
Yes.
Okay. At that point, was the car there?
Yes. As well as the full-size pickup truck, Dodge.
Okay, all the vehicles that you knew they may have utilized.
Yes.
Okay. Was there another attempt on May 15th by Children's Services at the residence? And that would be page 16 of 53.
Yes.
And these attempts are Children's Services staff kind of doing the same MO. They're leaving notes, they're knocking on the doors, they're looking to see if there's movement or lights or anything of that nature?
Yes.
Okay. And on May 15th, the Cavalier was gone, is that correct?
Cavalier was gone, but the red truck was still parked in the same spot.
Okay.
Appeared to be unmoved.
Then again, on May 23rd, which would be on page 20 of 53.
Oh, he's pretending he can read. Like I said, y'all. All the petty.
Was there another attempt at the residence?
There was another attempt of the vehicle. I'm sorry, another attempt to the home. She parked at the end of the driveway and walked the driveway.
Okay. In an effort at stealth?
There was a red car. The red Cavalier was there.
Okay, but what was the purpose for parking at the end of the driveway?
The road.
Okay. Road conditions versus just trying to,
Correct.
okay. Well, May 31st, was there another attempt at a home visit? It'd be
Yes.
page 23. Okay. No red Cavalier? Truck in
No.
the same spot?
No red Cavalier in the driveway, and the red Dodge pickup truck appeared to not have been moved.
And on June 7th, was there another attempt at a home visit?
Yes.
Now, during this time in May, were you also contacting different entities to see if there had been any contact with the Groves family?
Yes, we called CareSource.
well, let's say numerous government entities?
Yes,
Attorneys,
yes,
family members,
yes,
Daniel Jr.?
yes,
Was it your understanding that juvenile court personnel was also out looking for the Groves?
yes,
Was it your understanding that at different times the sheriff office was also out looking for the Groves?
yes,
Ultimately, on June 10th, were the Groves apprehended by law enforcement?
yes,
Okay, so y'all are telling me that down or in Hilchukia, in the boons and hollers, where everybody knows everybody, Wisconsin, or I'm sorry, Ohio, you know. But you're telling me that Cletus and Edith don't know where these two, um, non-street pharmacists or these street pharmacists are. I'm calling X to doubt.
Were you aware of an allegation that's been questioned? There's indication that Dylan was taken by Children's Services months ago.
yes. I received a call at 9:21 p.m. Stating that they have arrested Daniel and Jessica Groves and that they informed me that Jessica and Daniel was telling them that I came several months ago and took the child.
Did Children's Services take the child?
No, the last day I seen Dylan alive was March the 28th.
And then you learned on June 12th when Dylan's body was found.
Yes,
And these two geniuses, these two galaxy brains decided to tell the Popo, the 50, all of the geniuses that, oh yeah, definitely. No, CPS done has the baby. I don't know why you're arresting us. Why you always picking on us, police? And they're like, because we need to find your baby. And they're like, Child Protective Services done has them. And cops are like, well, that's real funny because they're the ones that got us to sign out the warrant. I mean, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Your dingleberrynesses.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
Let's see what Chuckles has to say.
Good morning, Mrs. Kraft. We're going to, prosecutor went through quite a few things with you, and we're going to sort of start all over, start back quite a bit. When you mentioned how long had you been with the agency? I think you mentioned that earlier.
I was hired in June of 2018.
So, okay. Before that,
Right?
Shawnee Family Health Center,
Shawnee Family Health Center, which is,
a mental health facility and a physician's office
okay, what did you do there?
as a caseworker,
Okay, same type of work,
just with adults.
just with adults, okay. Where did you work before that?
I worked for Rest Care,
Okay. Did you have any sort of casework experience before that?
just with my internship that I had for my degree.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when you came over to Children's Services, was there any training involved?
We do core training.
You do what? I'm sorry?
Core training,
Core training?
it's 8 trainings that we have to go to throughout the first year.
Okay. Are those somewhere that you go
It's
to? or-
Athens.
Athens?
Yes.
Okay. Are they a week long, day long? How long are they?
Some of them's 2 days, some of them's 1 day. It just depends on what the core training is for that week, for that
Okay.
month.
Ah.
And you have done, you said 8 of them?
8 of them.
Okay. When you got
Nope.
involved in this case, have you done all your training?
Not all 8.
Not all 8. How many have you done?
I had done 6 at that time.
I'm sorry?
6 at that
6?
time.
Okay, all right.
Oh, great. Okay,
So
Fry, stop
is it fair
messing
to
with the
say
cat.
that if you not completed your core training, that you're still working as a caseworker and responsible for high-profile cases?
We're still involved in cases.
Okay, all right. You weren't working as in,
This seems like a recipe for success. Again, vote for me. This type of shenanigans will not be happening. Not only did they did they decide that Daddy Doofus over here would be great, but they sent women without even, 8 single day or dual day trainings would be in charge of, handling this case when she didn't even know that you're supposed to take the child's, or just ignored the fact that you're supposed to take the child's sleeper off and, catalog any not noticeable bruises. Fry, you're gonna get your behind kicked, and then we're gonna see a court of a different kind. Because cats don't play, especially giant cats who may be Maine Coons. Fry, the cats are gonna petition if you get accepted into training for you not to come back. Poor Fry, he's gonna get voted off the island.
you did have you're the only caseworker on this case, right?
Yes,
Okay, all right. So
in January, starting in January the 25th.
okay, so I'm trying to get at, you were the only caseworker on this case, but you had not completed your training.
Correct.
Okay. In that training, are you taught or given examples of how to write a report, how to put information into this activity log?
Yes,
Okay. Are you told what to specifically put into this activity log?
the safety, the surroundings, if the baby's clean, if we do any marks, anything like that.
Okay. Is it general or is it specific as to what you put in the activity log?
Well,
The
it
training.
Oh, at the training?
Yeah.
Oh, it's specific. It depends on the child and the surroundings, what we put in there. But the safety we check, the housing, the baby if they're cleaning, just safety needs and basic needs.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
the
again,
cat
that-
does
that's
not
for
play,
training.
Frybert.
Do they tell you to be specific or do they give you certain wordage that you need to put in there?
We need to be detailed,
Detail. Do they look for specific words? Do they say at training you need to put these specific words in it?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, thank you. You did 3 home visits, correct?
Yes,
Well, I mean, you made many attempts.
attempts, but I had seen the child 3 times.
3 times. On February 4th,
Yes,
on February 25th,
yes,
and on March 28th.
yes.
Okay. I would like you to read these activity logs. You don't have to go through some of the case category or location type or any of that information. I want you to read the date, who created the activity log, and I want you to read the narrative. And let's start with February 4th. Oh, I'm sorry. That's, I got that as page 24. You need to take that out.
Oh no, did she use Chat GPT to do her narratives?
Okay.
Okay, could you, activity date created by, and then the narrative.
It was created on February the 4th
Okay.
by Patricia Kraft.
Okay,
And it states, caseworker completed 7-day home visit with Dylan and Daniel. Jessica and Daniel both were there when caseworker was visiting. Daniel is doing good. Dylan is doing good, I'm sorry. Daniel came in from school when caseworker was there. Daniel stated that things was going good. Jessica stated that Mahajan has her on a low risk. Jessica also stated about drug court. At that time, she was going,
let me stop you right there. I think you're ad-libbing a little bit, and I would like for you to read it word for word.
Jessica
Oh Lord. First of all, look, having done patient notes for aquatic therapy, I can tell you that the notes may be apples to oranges, but was good, doing well. You're doing well. You are not doing good. So that's a pet peeve. But good Lord.
Jessica stated that Mahajan has her on low risk. Jessica also stated about
No,
drug
no,
court.
no, that's not,
Asked about drug court.
yes, let's,
Jessica also asked about drug court. At this time, she is going to Mahajan's twice a week and gets drug screened twice a week. She goes through groups the same
no,
time.
no.
She has groups the same time as drug court. So caseworker advised her to go to Mahajan until further notice.
Yeah, let me just stop. Your Honor, I would like you to instruct the witness to read it verbatim.
Briefly.
Oh no, Chuckles is getting mad, and you don't want to see a clown when they're angry. We all know what happened to Gacy, though I don't know if he was ever really a happy clown, as it were.
No, ma'am, read it to the best of your ability. The document speaks for itself. If you wanted to read it, that's fine. If you don't like how she read it, Mr. Stratton, you can have the jury review it and submit it as evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. Please continue, Mrs. Graff.
So caseworker advised her to go to Mahajan until further notice. Jessica and Daniel asked about the immunization card, crib card from Dylan's discharge paper. Caseworker will locate them for them. Dylan has a crib, a swing, and all necessary things. Dylan has a doctor's appointment on Thursday. Dylan and Daniel's basic needs are being met by the parents. Dylan and Daniel appeared clean and appropriately dressed. No placement concerns were reported. No medical concerns were reported. Interaction between the parents and children appeared positive and supportive. No physical hazards were viewed in or around the home at the time of visit. There is no safety plan in effect currently. While assessing the child's safety, well-being, and the appropriateness of placement, caseworker determined vulnerability for CAN is low. There is no status change reported for the parents.
For the jury, could you explain what CAN is?
Child abuse and neglect.
Okay. And again, that says low, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I am going to show you what is Defense Exhibit A1 through H1.
Fry, leave the cat alone.
The home, the living room, the bedroom, Dylan's playpen, another playpen, another playpen, a playpen, and playpen.
A1 through H1. So,
Can we just talk about the resting bee face guy with glasses has been able to maintain? I thoroughly feel this guy is my resting bee face spirit animal, and we applaud you, sir. We salute you and your resting bee face.
so A1, is this the home of the Groves?
Yes,
And these are the windows that you mentioned before that you looked at, correct?
yes,
Okay. You look in all of them?
no.
Okay. Did you look at these windows?
I looked in the one beside the door.
Well, inside the door, okay.
Yeah.
You said you had to jump?
Yeah.
See that? So, B1? B1. You said you looked in the home, you've done pre-home visits. Did you go throughout the house, look in the rooms, make sure there were a bed, food, it was clean?
Daniel was putting the crib together. He had it to be put together when the first visit I was there.
Okay. Is this the crib you're talking about?
No,
Okay. All right. So have you ever seen this crib before?
no, not that one.
Not that one. Okay.
Hey, defense, maybe you should have realized that. Also, you shouldn't put a crib underneath a, let's back an eight, a giant damned deer head. I mean, not for nothing, but I have had 6 children, and you're generally not supposed to put a crib underneath anything heavy that could, whenever or if anything should happen, it falls directly on an infant. Just small safety tips I've learned over the years. Not that I've ever had a deer head, but I might get 1 or 2. A super classy one with the deer front. But I might be tempted who, someday.
Food.
Fry Loki is gonna get
Daniel was
you.
putting the crib together. He had it to be put together when the first visit I was there.
Okay, is this crib you're talking about?
No,
Okay, all right. So have you ever seen this crib before?
no, not that one.
Not that one, okay. Ian, what is that a picture of?
Of a bed.
C1? You know what this picture of? So, but you said you went to every room.
No, I didn't go to every room.
You didn't go to
Mm-mm.
You didn't go to every room? You didn't check out the house?
I don't, the only time I do a safety check is a safety audit is if we remove a child ourselves and have to put them in there. Usually the investigator does the safety audit of the home.
So on these other exhibits, you mentioned, again, you don't know what this crib is. You haven't ever seen this crib.
Never seen that one.
Dan, I've seen that. Same picture, same crib. Oh, E1, John. One over there. And then a couple other pictures of the crib that you have not seen. G1 there, Your Honor. And then a picture of closer to the crib that you claim you have not seen. Correct?
Correct.
You've
Let's
made
go
an
to-
excellent point, Chuckles.
The second home visit, and that is the one on 225. And I'd like you to read that activity date, created by, and narrative also.
Was created by Patricia Kraft.
Right.
Caseworker completed ongoing monthly visit. Dylan appeared clean and appropriately dressed. No placement concerns, no medical concerns were reported. The child's basic needs are being met by parents. No physical hazards were viewed in or around the home at the time of visit. Supervision and discipline appear age appropriate. The parents ensure that all scheduled appointments are kept. Interaction between the parents and the child are positive and supportive. While assessing the child's safety, well-being, and the appropriateness of placement, caseworker determined that vulnerability for CA and N is low. There is no status changes reported for the family. Daniel stated that Dylan went to the doctor on Thursday. He weighs 8 pounds, 9 ounces, and is 22 inches long. Daniel stated the baby sleeps at 6 hours at a time. Dylan has own bed and bedding,
Okay. So you viewed a crib, but just not this one.
not that one.
Okay, all right. Also like you to read the 328 home visit.
Created by Patricia Kraft.
And honest to God, these two, and Jessica, you tearing up, you absolute piece of human filth, not even allegedly, convictedly now. Stop. You didn't care about that baby when he was crying and you were strung out. You don't get to cry about him now. Only that baby's foster mama, his real true mama that held him in her hands when he was strung out because you subjected him to all sorts of torture chemically while you were pregnant with him, deserves any sympathy. In my opinion, y'all can come at me in the comments, but this is how I feel. So, that is the judgment of me, blessed by me, and approved for me.
Caseworker completed ongoing home visit. Dylan was taken in bottle when caseworker arrived. Dylan appeared clean and appropriately dressed. No medical issues were reported. No placement concerns were reported. The child's basic needs are being met by the parents. No physical hazards were viewed in or around the home at the time of visit. Supervision and discipline appear age appropriate. The parents ensure all medical appointments are kept. Interaction between parents and children are positive and supportive. It was discussed if there was a
This social worker did jack diddly crap. She never took the baby out of Jessica's arms when she was at any of these visits that she was able to attend. So, she just took whatever, these two dingleberries, these two hefty sacks of human crap, done sold her. And she was like, he's been sleeping through the night, which, sure, Jan, sure. Also, didn't ask for documentation, didn't follow up from the daggone doctors if they'd actually been to the doctor's appointment until, oh, well, I guess they're missing appointments. Better check up with Rural King, see about that 6 months paid family leave. Uh, y'all, no.
the possibility that Jessica could come back home, Jessica stated she is missing the bonding with Dylan. Caseworker informed both parents that caseworker would staff with Lisa Thomas and caseworker will call them later on to them today with an answer. Caseworker informed both they need to be at the hearing on April the 3rd, 2019. Caseworker staffed with Lisa Thomas about the possibility of Jessica going back home to bond with Dylan. It was
You did bond with him. You bonded so hard you gave him skull fractures, ma'am. And then you, Daddy Dingus, claimed to never notice that your wife was abusing the ever-living tar out of your infant and then helped dispose of his body in a sinkhole. Don't even tear up. I would send y'all directly to Snake Island.
was agreed that a safety plan would be put in place, and it would state that Jessica would attend all drug court days counseling. Mahajan for treatment, contact caseworker weekly upon dates. If Jessica has one positive drug screen or does not attend drug court, counseling both individual and group, this is a possibility both children will be removed.
So is your supervisor telling you that Jessica can come back home?
If there's a safety plan put in,
Was there a safety plan?
they never called me back. I have text them to
Yeah,
call
that's
me.
fine. That's fine, that's
Yeah,
Let me
Chuckles.
step
They
back
never
for a
called back. They
Um,
never went to the court
How many cases
dates.
do you handle at this time, if you know, or now? How many cases are you handling as a caseworker for Children's Services?
31.
31.
Yeah, y'all. This woman still has a gerb with this place. Yep, I guess you just get to lose a kid or two and it don't really matter.
Okay. Was it at that time or now?
Now,
Okay. What was it at that time?
23.
23. Okay. Okay. With 23 cases, you were able to remember every detail about these cases, like what he was wearing on each visit. You were able to remember that from your memory.
Yes,
Okay. On the 2-4 visit, you said he was wearing a long sleeper,
Mhm.
no hat,
Oh,
and that Jess was holding him.
Jessica
Correct?
was holding me.
Okay. But you did not hold him.
No,
You did not pick him up.
no.
Isn't it true that you merely glanced at him
I looked at him from sitting on the couch.
from sitting on the couch?
Yes, I'm right here and Jessica was right here.
So you came in the house, sat down on the couch, didn't view Dylan.
How is the damn it, Chuckles? You're gonna make me like you. You're gonna make me like you. Are we developing a friendship here, Chuckles?
at all. And the only time you looked at him was from the couch.
When I seen Jessica with Jessica,
Okay. So you didn't even go over to him and look and take a look at him.
no.
Okay. And let me clarify this. Daniel Jr. said everything was okay at the house on the
Yes.
2-4 visit. Okay. But again, on the 2-4 visit, you didn't go in every room in the house.
No, he came in, talked to me for a few minutes and went to his bedroom.
Okay. So in these notes, you said there's no physical hazards, but you really didn't look at the entire property and the entire house to see if there were any physical hazards, did you?
We look when we come in around the house,
You didn't even look in the house,
not in every room.
okay?
Chuckles, did you switch teams? Are you and I becoming best friends? I'm willing to welcome you over to the logic side. We have dark humor to cope, sarcasm, and sometimes we comfort eat a lot of chocolate. There's trade-offs. I mean, you might not smile as much, but welcome. We'll teach you all about sarcasm, sweetie.
On the 225 visit, you said that Dylan was wearing a long sleeve sleeper, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Again, on that visit, did you just come in and sit on the couch
yes.
Okay.
And we talked.
and you talked?
Mhm.
Okay. And did you observe Dylan from your seat on the couch?
Before I sat down, I looked at him from head to toe.
All right.
Okay, Chuckles. If the state wasn't gonna light into to Crafty Craft over here, guess you and I, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We have done just become friends.
From head to toe. So you picked him up, held him?
No, I didn't hold him.
Okay, all right. So you sort of just glanced at him, didn't you?
I looked at him.
At the 328 home visit, you didn't ask Daniel why he wasn't at court, did you?
We texted him the day before.
Okay, but your earlier
Yes.
testimony was you did not ask him at that home visit, did you?
No, I did not ask him at that home visit.
Okay, and Dylan at that visit was in a long sleeve sleeper,
Yes.
okay? Again, did you just walk in and have a seat on the couch?
At first, but before I left, I got up, walked over, looked at him. I made two statements. I wonder if he's going to have natural curly hair like his dad and brother. He has the prettiest blue eyes for a baby. And I touched the bottom of his face.
Ma'am, ma'am, bare minimum, you could not be bothered. Don't try to even no. No, both of you, you 2 need to hush the tone in your eyes.
And he grinned.
Bothering the hell out of me over here.
Tricia Kraft, you know that's not a true statement, that you did none of that.
Chuckles. Chuckles. You and me are now bestest friends. You go get him, boy. You go get him. You go get him, sir. Chuckles, you get him.
That you merely glanced at Dylan and did not actually observe him, did you?
Objection sustained. Rephrase your question. Make your question up.
Okay, Chuckles can't do a mean mug. I will teach you resting bitch face, sir. It's an art I have learned from one of the best, but I will teach you all I know.
I think it's curious that you make the statement that you heard him make no sounds, no crying noises or anything, did you?
Not while I was visiting.
Okay. You mentioned that he was taking a bottle when you got there
Mhm.
and that at some point he stopped.
She was burping him.
She was burping him? Okay.
Make sure you answer out loud. Whoever you want to hear.
Mrs. Kraft, do you think you did your job to the best of your ability?
Yes, I did it within the law. The only thing I didn't do was bust the door down to find that baby.
One second. Your Honor. Mrs. Kraft, I would like you to read case note dated 5/2, and it begins with caseworker staffed with Supervisor Lisa Thomas. Page 38 of 46, the page numbers are different.
Okay. Objections overruled. Defense may continue with your question.
Mrs. Kraft, did you find that 5/2 note where you staffed with Supervisor Lisa Thomas?
Yes.
Okay. Again, activity date, created by, and then once you read the narrative.
The activity date was 5/2/19. It was created by me, myself. It stated, caseworker staff with Supervisor Lisa Thomas about Daniel not showing up to court. Caseworker asked supervisor about an Amber Alert, and supervisor informed to go to the staff attorney, Dave Huddleston. Caseworker staffed with Dave, and he informed it would be a supervisor or a Director Fuller decision. Caseworker went back into the supervisor's office and informed her what the attorney said, and supervisor stated that if an Amber Alert goes out, it would give a bad reputation for the agency because we lost a child.
Why am I not shock-faced? You didn't lose them. You put them back with 2 people that the foster mother that anyone with 20/20 vision, hell, even Stevie Wonder wouldn't have to wonder. Even Ray Charles could have seen. Even someone who had directly stared into the sun for a full damn day could have seen that these 2 chuckleheads had no business caring for a child, an infant going through withdrawals. But no, Child Protective Services was like, "These 2, let's give them the kids." I always forget it's mirrored on mine, so dingus, point at the other direction. But yeah, no, and then CPS, "It'll look bad if we lose a kid, so we aren't gonna make an Amber Alert." Chuckles. I'm beginning to like you.
And you think you did your job to your best absolute ability, correct?
Yes,
But your supervisor just said this. Did you report this to anybody?
yes.
Who did you report it to?
I went downstairs and I was crying, talking to another supervisor, and she was going to call Dr. Fuller.
Okay, but did you report it to Dr. Fuller yourself?
Dr. Fuller was not there at that
Okay.
time.
Did you report it to Dr. Fuller the next time you saw Dr. Fuller?
We discussed it.
You discussed it?
Yep.
That would be
Again.
no.
What was the results of that discussion?
On May the 3rd, me and a caseworker was out at lunch. The other caseworker got a text and told us to go to the sheriff's office and put out an Amber Alert.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Stratton, Ms. Scott, you may cross-examine the witness.
Good morning, Ms. Kraft. When the father was drug screened at the hospital on January the 11th of 2019, were you present?
No,
Okay. That was conducted by investigator Johnson, is that
Yes.
correct? Is there an actual note in the activity log that explains the protocol in which he conducted that drug screen?
there's a law created on January the 11th, stating that caseworker Lauren Johnson met with Daniel in order for him to drug screen for caseworker. Daniel tested negative for all substance, therefore caseworker Johnson continued with the safety plan.
Do you know if Mr. Groves would have been aware at that time that he was going to be drug screened at that particular time?
No,
That is not documented by investigator or caseworker Johnson, correct?
correct.
Okay. Have you conducted a drug screen yourself at a place outside of the agency?
No,
Do you know if there is a separate protocol in regards to conducting a drug screen outside the agency?
if they are doing a removal and it's going to kinship, they usually do it at the home of where the child or children are going to be placed at.
Okay, well, that was not the situation in this case, correct? This was going to be conducted on the premises of, I believe, Southern Ohio Medical Center, correct?
Lauren's, I do not know where Lauren had tested Mr. Groves at.
It is not documented.
No, it just said she had contacted him.
Okay. So there's no specific documentation other than it was a negative drug screen.
Correct,
There's nothing to indicate that she violated any of the protocol.
correct,
There's nothing to indicate that someone else was present with him in the restroom at the time he gave a urine sample.
correct,
There is no indication that that was conducted improperly.
correct.
Do you carry your own drug screen kits on you when you anticipate drug screening someone outside of the agency?
Yes,
And are those drug screens temperature sensitive?
yes,
And would that have been the type of drug screen that Lauren Johnson would have given Mr. Groves?
yes,
Okay. So in order for it to be properly read as a negative drug screen, it would have had to have the appropriate body temperature reflected on.
You're telling me that these two, let's say, straight pharmaceutical connoisseurs, these meth buffet banquet aficionados are not maybe keen to the fact that, oh, wife looks high as balls. I might need to drug test. We'll have uh no, I will have to maybe have clean pee on me to keep this baby at home. I'm calling BS that Daniel was, clueless and didn't have some safe pee when it became evident that CPS was gonna be called.
The test, correct?
correct.
Okay. Nothing to indicate otherwise because it is listed as a negative drug screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever known, since working with investigator caseworker Johnson, that she would conduct drug screens outside of the protocol of the agency?
Could you rephrase that again? I
Yeah.
didn't-
Do you know if she has ever violated policy when conducting drug screens, or are you all trained on how to do that and you do it the same way each and every time?
I have no information on her. If she misled the protocol.
Okay, so you would have no reason to have any other knowledge otherwise that she conducted this properly?
Right, I do not.
Okay, thank you. And that's the way it was documented in the activity log, is it was a completely negative drug screen?
Correct.
Thank you. It was also part of your testimony yesterday, I believe, that there is also documentation by, is it easier to refer to her by investigator or caseworker Johnson? Is she
Either
both?
one's,
Okay,
either one's fine.
she's both. Correct. She holds both of those titles?
Yes,
Just so I don't have to say both, just for efficiency's sake. Caseworker Johnson also noted that Mr. Groves explained to her that he was unaware of Jessica Groves' drug usage until essentially she was ready to give birth, correct?
correct.
Sure.
In this incident, you also made a referral to Help Me Grow.
Correct.
Was that a mandated program that they had to participate in?
When a child is in our custody, they have to follow their recommendations.
Okay.
So if Help Me Grow said that Dylan needed to be in their program, then they would have to follow through with that program.
But there was no such recommendation made because there was no finalization of any of the.
They was, right, there's no recommendation because they had no contact with them.
Okay, thank you. When was the drug screen made of Daniel Groves at the agency prior to Dylan being placed in his care? Do you have that exact date? Was that on January 28th or the Friday before that?
Friday before that,
Okay. Is that,
25th, I believe.
okay, January 25th?
January 25th.
Okay. Did Mr. Groves know he was coming in for a drug screen?
No.
So that was a surprise
Yes.
upon his arrival.
Yes.
Are you sure you are the one that actually conducted that drug screen, or was it Supervisor Thomas that by chance conducted that drug
I
screen?
conducted that drug screen.
Okay. So it was an unannounced drug screen, correct?
Yes.
So he would have no knowledge of making preparation for that.
Objection, speculation.
Same.
I'll rephrase my question, Your Honor. Thank you. There was absolutely no conversation about him taking a drug screen at the agency prior to that, him being requested to do that when he arrived, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And the protocol that you discussed earlier in your testimony, is that the protocol you would have followed when conducting this drug screen?
Correct.
That is correct?
What I done was, he came in the office, I gave him the cup, he showed him where the restroom was. I stood out behind the door, told him, do not flush the toilet or run the water.
Okay. And also, once again, was there a temperature gauge on that sample cup?
Yes.
Did it match the appropriate body temperature that it should have shown for an appropriate sample being
Yes.
retrieved? And once again, it was a negative drug screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So on January the 10th, or January the 11th, I'm sorry, there was a negative drug screen by Mr. Groves.
Correct.
There was also one on January the 25th
Correct.
of Mr. Groves, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware, I'm sorry, strike that, Your Honor. Was Mr. Groves also required to go to Mahajan Therapeutics for an intake, as well as Jessica Groves?
I was unaware if he was referred through the investigator,
So
because
do
she
you,
would have set that up.
okay. I was just wondering if you were of any other drug screens that would have occurred between January 11th, or I'm sorry, January the 11th and January 25th.
I'm unaware of that.
Okay.
Mhm.
As part of your agency's discussion regarding placing the child with the parent, and in this case, Mr. Groves, some of the things that you would have ascertained was whether or not they had previous involvement with the agency, correct?
Correct.
And that was a negative
That was
in
a
this
negative.
situation, and that there was no violent background,
Correct.
correct? And that was a negative in this situation,
Yes.
correct? And that
You're not
Mr.
going to sell him as
Groves
being a
had at
good
least
guy.
2 agency conducted drug screens, correct?
Correct.
And both of those were negative,
Yes.
and they were approximately 2 weeks apart, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So all of those things cleared him for placement of the child on January the 28th.
Correct.
Okay. He cooperated with you acquiring all of that information.
Correct.
He gave you any releases, appropriate information to look up those things, look up those items.
He was
Um,
instructed to sign all releases.
Okay, so he cooperated in that regard, correct?
Correct.
He allowed you to look into his life,
Correct.
look into his background,
Correct.
look into whether or not he had prior cases,
Correct.
look into whether or not he had a criminal record or a violent criminal record, correct? Okay, and all of those came back as a negative,
Correct.
including the 2 drug screens.
Including the 2 drug screens.
Great, okay. And you, I believe, stated in your testimony that Investigator Johnson would have been the one that had already gone out and cleared the home.
Correct.
Do you know if there is an activity log or a note as to that?
I did not see one that she went out there.
But that would have been the agency's protocol,
Yes.
and there would not have been the suggestion or the recommendation that the child be placed in his care if his home was not qualified.
Correct.
Okay, so we can make an assumption that since she made that recommendation to her supervisor, that his home must have qualified.
Correct.
Okay,
Object for the speculatory nature.
So the extent of the answer, I would
Thank you. When you made your personal visits there at the home, although you did not go through the entire residence, you did not have anything glaring or striking at you that there was anything appropriate about the home.
Everything was fine from what I've seen.
Okay, great. The note that was placed into the activity log about Mrs. Groves being loopy on a visit, which was indicating an indication that she may have been under the influence of a substance, did not involve Mr. Groves, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There was no indication from the foster parent that she made that same observation about my client, Mr. Groves, correct?
Correct.
When you
Oh,
had
well,
interaction with him on that first, do you call it a team meeting?
Family team meeting?
Team meeting?
Yes.
Okay, just make sure I got the correct wording. Did you observe anything about Mr. Groves that was inappropriate?
No.
Did you observe anything about him that would cause you concern when the recommendation was made that the child be placed with him that would have given you pause for cause?
No.
Thank you. And you did conduct a home visit on February the 4th, which was close to your 7-day home
Correct.
visit because there was some weather-related issues, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And everyone was present and you saw them on that day because Daniel Jr. arrived at a later time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All appeared appropriate with the family.
Yes.
You did not note any exceptions.
None at all.
You did not have concern to where you came back and staffed and said, hey, we need to take a child back out of the home at this time.
Correct.
You did not note, I believe, in your activity log about what the child was actually wearing that day. That is testimony from personal memory, correct?
Correct.
And that's memory from a year ago, correct? Or approximately a year ago. We're not in February yet. And I believe it's also your testimony that you did not actually touch baby Dylan
Correct.
or manipulate him in any fashion.
No.
And the baby was being held by Jessica Groves, correct? Was she cradling him up front?
Yes, you would
across her
cradle him
body?
like this.
Okay. And so not the entire, there were not large portions of his body visible to you, correct?
Correct.
And if she was
And you-
cradling him to where his head would be resting against her arm, the back of his head would not be exposed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Probably close to the forehead forward,
Yes.
okay? So whether he was wearing a hat or not, you did not see the majority of his head,
Didn't see it. I did not see a hat on him.
okay? But whether he was wearing a hat or not, you did not see the majority of his head.
Correct.
Okay, you did not see the back portion of his head?
No.
And you probably did not see a very great portion from the mid top of the head backwards, correct?
Correct.
Because the baby was resting in her arms.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. You did not see his arms exposed to you,
Just his hands.
his hands?
Yeah.
Okay. You did not see his chest exposed to you?
He was in a sleeper.
Okay. It's not a trick question. You did not see his legs exposed to you?
No.
Nowhere really other than his
Face and his hands.
hands, maybe his ears, and a portion of his forehead area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Did you conduct any drug screens on the parents at their home that day?
No.
Did you?
So, CPS worker, what in the actual hell did you actually do? Well, I went there and I confabbed with them for a little bit. I went there and I talked at them, and then we chatted for a bit, and I was like, drugs are bad, okay, really bad, okay. And that's what I told them. I was like, drugs are bad, okay. And they were like, okay. What the actual hell am I supposed to take from this? What is your job? What do you actually do? Because you seem to do jack crap all. But
conduct
okay.
any type of drug screens on either one of the children that day?
No.
Okay. I believe in your direct testimony, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you stated that the child did not make it to his doctor's appointment in early February. Can you please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to misspeak for you, but that is the note that I made, is that you stated that the baby Mrs. Doctor's appointment, I believe, would have been scheduled on February the 7th at Christ Care Pediatrics.
Well, now don't make her have to
And I don't know if
read.
that was a discussion that you had on February the 21st, or if that was something that you was testifying from memory.
February 25th, the parents ensure that all scheduled appointments are kept.
So if I heard you say that the baby didn't make it to his doctor's appointment around February the 7th, that may have been something I misheard.
I don't have no written knowledge of him
Okay,
at the doctor
Do
on
you-
the 7th.
okay. Do you know, so you do not know if he actually had a doctor's appointment on February the 7th and all was well?
Not till Christ Care had sent me all the paperwork.
And then you were aware that
he
he
had one,
did have an
yes.
appointment? Okay, so if I wrote that down, then I wrote that down incorrectly, just to make for sure. I just want to make sure that is not your testimony today, that he did not attend his doctor's appointment on February the 7th.
The one on the 21st, they was ordered to take Dylan to the doctor, to the hospital for some lab work at that day.
He also attended on February the 21st
Right.
as well, but what about on February the 7th? Are you aware that
I
he
was
went?
unaware until the 1st of May, when I got the paperwork that he did have an appointment on the 1st.
So you
on the
are
7th.
acknowledging here today, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. You're acknowledging here today that he attended a well child visit on February the 7th as well as on February the 21st, correct?
Yes, but they did not take the test on the 7th.
Okay, but he did attend that doctor's appointment.
Hmm.
Correct.
Well,
Okay. Are you referring to some personal notes or a different set of notes?
I'm just reading the thing that the doctor had faxed us.
Okay, I just want to make sure what you were using for the
It's-
record to
yeah, it's
reflect your
Christ Care.
recollection. Okay,
Yeah, and it states that they made the appointment.
She's
first visit
using
with
mental
us on
math.
February the 7th.
okay,
That was his first visit.
okay. And that was a well child visit
Yes,
and the baby appeared fine? Or does it?
it doesn't say. It
Doesn't
just-
say that.
Yeah,
But there's nothing saying there was anything wrong.
correct,
Nothing was reported to the agency that anything was wrong.
correct.
And if the pediatrician had noted something being wrong with the child, they would have more than likely contacted the agency like they did later on in May.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
you talked
probably.
A little bit with Mr. Teeman, I believe, in regards to how bad the phone reception and the telephone service was out at the Mount Hope Road address in Otway, correct?
Correct.
And did the Groves have an actual old school landline?
No,
Did they rely on cell phones for communication?
yes,
Did they have access to the internet if you were aware?
I was not aware of that.
So you do not know if their phone lines would have been enhanced by the use of the internet?
Correct.
Okay, and is it your testimony that you do know that they had sketchy or spotty cell phone service on occasion?
On occasion, and I actually had to use my cell phone out there. On February the 4th, when I went there, I tore my car completely up. So I was trying to get a hold of the towing company and I had to walk around trying to find service.
So you personally have actual experience with having terrible phone reception out there?
Correct.
So you had to kind of walk and hold your hand up and
Yes.
hold your leg up and your arm up and try to capture a signal, correct?
Correct.
So if you made multiple attempts to call them or text them, that's not unusual, that either that may not have gone through or may not have been received because of the bad reception,
Oh.
correct?
Mr. Grove says if he laid it in a certain part of the window where he would lay it, he would always get the messages.
But you don't know if he always laid it
I
there
do
or
not
not?
know that.
Okay, so it was not striking to you that there wasn't always an immediate return phone call,
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you. Then again, on February the 25th, you did complete a separate home visit, correct?
Correct.
And that all appeared well,
Yes,
no concerns.
no concerns at all.
Once again, I believe that it was reported that all was going well. And nothing jumped out at you in regards to a need to remove the child at that time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you did not report any injuries,
Correct.
did not note any injuries.
Correct.
What do you recall of where the child was at that time, who was holding him, who was not holding him?
Jessica was always holding him when I'd go out there.
Okay. So if Jessica was once again holding him, would she have been holding him in the cradling position as we discussed earlier?
Correct. And then she put him on her shoulder.
Okay. And, but do you know if that is what occurred when you were there on February the 25th?
Other than her cradling him. That was the only thing that I seen her do.
You only recall her actually cradling
Cradling,
him in her arms, where he would be laying on his back, his head resting in the crook of her arm, essentially.
And she would kiss him.
And she would show affection to him. Okay. Did Mr. Grove show an appropriate concern or affection for Dylan when you were there?
Yeah, because every time I'd ask a question, he would answer it.
Okay. He seemed appropriately concerned.
Yes,
He gave appropriate responses.
yes,
Did he appear as if he was under the influence of anything?
no,
Um, And once again.
He was
I
just
believe what your
stupid.
testimony is that he was wearing some type of garment that covered up most of his body.
correct.
Not wearing a hat.
No.
But once again, not to beat a dead horse, but most of his head was not actually visible to you,
Correct.
Once similar to the same questions I asked you before, basically his hands, his face, and a little bit of his forehead was exposed to you visibly, correct?
Correct,
Okay. Midline from the back of his head, not exposed to you?
correct.
Okay, thank you. There was some issue made about him Mr. Groves not attending court on February the 27th of 2019 at juvenile court.
It'd be March the 27th.
I'm sorry, March the 27th. I apologize for misstating that month. While at court, was there contact made with Mr. Groves either through court personnel or through his attorney?
Yes,
Okay, and so he was available through either a text message or a phone call during that period of
after a
time?
little bit.
After it?
Yeah, he finally returned.
But he was reached,
Yes,
okay. And at that point in time, you
Well.
scheduled your March 28th home visit, correct? Okay. And as you stated before in your testimony, it's not unusual sometimes for folks not to show up for court in the court. Does the court make a big deal out of it if attorneys are able to reach their clients by phone as long as there's an agreement?
as long as there's an agreement.
Okay, and as long as there's not testimony that's actually going to be taken on the record, parents sometimes are able to agree with their attorneys while they're on the phone.
Correct,
And that's what happened on that March 27th day.
correct,
And so there was not really a big deal made out of it, correct? Okay, and that's not,
You know, it would seem though that if you want your kid back, if you want, to get, you would do anything to keep this baby with you because you just love your children, that you would do everything to keep this child with you, like show the hell up to the hell church or court, not church. You know what I'm trying to say, people.
not atypical for those proceedings in juvenile court.
No.
Okay. And once again, on March the 28th for that visit, there were no notes of concern for you.
correct.
Nothing appearing out of the ordinary.
Nothing.
Once again, you testified that that the baby was wearing a sleeper.
Correct,
Once again, you noted in your testimony that Jessica Groves was holding the child.
feeding when I
Oh,
arrived.
I'm sorry, feeding the child. And so was the child it wasn't old enough to sit in the high chair.
Correct,
Okay. So how was she feeding the child? Was she holding the child and giving him a bottle?
yes, holding the child and giving him the bottle.
Okay, so once again, was she cradling him in her arms, had him in her lap, had him on a boppy pillow? What was going on?
Cradling him.
Cradling him.
Mhm.
Once again, his head was resting in the crook of his arm, her arm, I'm sorry,
Correct,
and the majority of his head would not have been exposed.
correct.
She was feeding him,
Yes,
showing him appropriate attention at that time.
yes,
Did Mr. Groves answer your questions, respond to the conversation appropriately?
yes,
Did he seem to have appropriate concern for his child?
yes,
And although you were asked about whether or not there was an injury to his head, you did not see the entire portion of his head, correct?
correct,
And that is true for all of the 3 home visits and face-to-face contacts you had with this child. You did not see the majority of the portion of his head.
correct.
Thank you. Then we get into a pattern and a practice of Mr. Groves and Mrs. Groves avoiding you.
Correct.
You never had face-to-face contact, really, with either one of them after that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay. People that start avoiding the agency raises suspicions, correct?
Correct.
No one else that you talked to had ever seen the child again after March 28th, correct?
Correct.
You talked to friends, families, neighbors, as many folks that you all could reach out to, correct?
Correct.
No one saw this child after March 28th, correct?
Correct.
Not that you were able to ever ascertain, correct?
Correct.
Hmm.
I know this is very upsetting for you, as well as it is for all of us. We don't know what happened after March 28th, do we?
No.
I have some
They were avoiding you?
ideas.
Yes.
They were avoiding their own family.
Yes.
They never really came forward to try to get Daniel Jr. back, did they?
No.
Other than the text message, hey, what's going on?
That was it.
Mr. Groves did exhibit concern about Daniel Jr.'s welfare and asked where he was at, correct?
Correct.
He did play somewhat of a game with you and kept telling you that he was going to produce the baby, correct?
Correct.
He never did he?
No.
Did you suspect at that time that the child was not alive?
Yes.
That would be the only reason why he wouldn't produce the child, correct?
Correct.
I mean, makes sense to me.
Did you notice or observe an unusual relationship between Jessica Groves and Daniel Groves when you were in their presence?
No.
Did you observe a loving relationship between the two of them?
Yes, they was very supportive of each other.
They were bonded to each other, correct?
Correct.
Would you say that's an accurate observation?
Yes.
They'd been together for a long time,
20
from
years.
your understanding?
Yep.
20 plus years?
Correct.
Did you ever observe, while you were asking questions of maybe Mr. Groves, that he would look to Mrs. Groves before he answered or gave you any answers?
I never noticed.
Okay. But at that time, everything was all okay, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And on the occasions, just to be clear, and I believe that you've already testified to this, you did not pick up or manipulate the baby in any form or fashion other than tickling his foot on that one occasion, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I have a conversation with Mr. Groves?
Don't cry. No one cares, ma'am. Put those fakey tears away. Y'all will never see each other again, and I will be so happy because you two are a toxic dumpster fire who, sir, you allowed your wife to unalive your baby, and ma'am, you tortured a baby. I don't feel bad for either of you. But go ahead and keep crying.
Ms. Kraft, after that 3/28 day, you never had a face-to-face again with either one of the Groves, the parents, Jessica or Daniel.
Correct.
You never saw Dylan again.
Correct,
You only saw Daniel Jr.,
correct,
and he also kind of fell out of contact with his parents as well, correct?
correct.
I think you definitely have this time.
Scott, you regret. Any other questions for this witness?
No, this time, Your Honor, thank you.
Is she excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, she would be excused for our purposes.
Okay, you're free to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our lunch recess. I'm going to ask, probably notice the clock in the courtroom is a little slower than the one that's up there on the screen. The one on the screen will be a little more accurate. I'm going to ask that you be back in the jury room at 25 minutes after 1. During the lunch recess, I'm going to conduct some other hearings on some other cases. And would ask counsel to be back here at the same time. It'd be my intention to be in the courtroom at 1:30 to start the afternoon session of testimony. Remember my earlier admonition to you, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, do not discuss it with anyone else, do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on this case until it is finally submitted to you. This time, I'll see you in about an hour. First recess.
And let's pull up the next video. I do not know
Jessica Groves, case
why
number 19 CR 586
they have this in
Counsel
so
indicated during the
piecemeal. It's so weird. Oh, for the love of all that is Cheetos. Day 2. So now that I'm actually looking at this, I think I may stop this video because next we are going to go into the medical examiner, and that's gonna be a rough one, you guys, and I want it, to kind of be on its own little island, so if you want to be able to skip that one, you definitely can, and, I will just do that. So they will have one block with, I will have one with just the, I believe, medical examiner, and then I will have, now and well, the 2 medical examiners, it looks like, and then I will have another by itself video with, Dylan's foster mother, Andrea Bowling, who, that's gonna be another really hard video, and that way you can pick and choose. Look, your mental health, th this is really a hard trial, and, we're going to get close to where the parents are going to come on, in day 4, but we have to kinda get through these other people. So definitely, you know, pay attention to your own needs. If you can't watch this because these are terrible, horrible things that happen to an infant, and, uh, I will say Andrea Bowling, if you can watch it, this woman loved just the heck out of this baby, and she is the mother. She has the mother's heart that grieves this baby, the truest, the deepest, and, honors him truly. And, that's what I will put up there. So there probably won't be a lot of commentary on the next 2 videos other than me cursing a lot during the medical examiner one. But like I said, I will try to keep those videos in their own separate little corner with warnings so that, if you want to stay up on the case, and I'll try to do a recap, very dry, going into day 3, um, without those particular, or at least going into the rest of the testimony on day 3 without those 2 or 3, testimonies in there so that you don't have to have all of those in your head. But, that being said, unfortunately, sadly, we have to actually, no, that's not going to be the medical examiners. These might be other doctors, but still, this is a good recording. This is where Chuckles and I became friends. And I had a whole mental thought there. So, as always happens, I'm really blonde under here, so things change. And I have laundry to do because, a house with 8 people, we should all be nudists. Anywho, thank you for going through this trial with me. I will try to have a live fairly soon, but I will see you in a little bit. Bye, guys.